Welcome to Andy and Ari On3. Happy Hump Day. Of course, Ari and I got to bring the mood down because we got to talk hot seat. But look, that's what we do before every season. This is a normal part of the college football conversation. And sure, it's uncomfortable. I don't wish anybody to get fired. But with these head coaches and these buyouts, it's not them that I'm worried about. It's the people down the line on the staff that I feel for. The head coaches I don't feel for because, Ari, as you know, my dream job, the greatest job in America is fired major college football coach.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic that it is Hump Day when we're talking about this, and that Hugh Freeze said you need length and girth in this league, and he's also on the list. So everything's coming together. Life's a circle. You know, I don't know. This is a fun conversation to talk about. It's not because you don't want anybody to lose their job, and you certainly don't want, the staffs and people who aren't.
But this is something that people talk about with college football. Like, listen, I live in Gainesville, so it has been a steady topic of conversation. Billy Napier's future has been a steady topic of conversation for a year and a half now, and will continue to be, depending on what happens this year. So
you also cannot be a college football podcast and not talk about it July 30th. Like we'll talk about it a year from now, new names, but this is an important thing because it's, what's the single most important thing that a program endures? Coaching change, right? Like you can't, you can't shy away from it. And also too, the hope is that the people on this list are off of it and still employed. It's not, like they haven't.
Billy Napier was on this list last year and he still got his job. And if all goes well, he will still have his job this time next year. So you have 8 names on the list and we'll read them off for the podcast listeners. Billy Napier at Florida, Brent Venables at Oklahoma, Hugh Freeze at Auburn, Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Brent Brennan at Arizona, Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, Mike Locksley at Maryland, Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati. It's a short list compared to previous years. And the reason for that is some of these absurdly massive buyouts.
Yeah.
No matter what Lincoln Riley does, again, short of robbing a liquor store, he's not getting fired at USC.
3 names that I am consistently being beaten up for on media, on social media for not including. Luke Fickell, Mike Norvell, and Lincoln Riley, all of whom are too expensive.
Way too expensive. Mark Stoops in Kentucky is the other one that I imagine you're probably getting a lot of. Even Mark Stoops is the most absurdly expensive coach to fire because he is the one that would be owed the full amount of his buyout within 60 days. It's insane.
Yeah. So this is a rational list. Hot seat is reserved for people who are actually in danger of losing their jobs. There are people who are facing pressure, which is a list I did 2 weeks ago that included people who might not be fired. But the list is rational and real. So I just wanted to make.
I think there's one person you left off that you should have kept on there or should have put on there. And it's not a person I think many people are thinking about. But it's somebody we actually asked about this situation in person 2 weeks ago. So you've got Billy Napier number 1, and I don't disagree with that, especially the news that DJ Lagway's hurt again. It's either they're going to be much better at Florida and they're going to be a very good team to potentially a playoff contender, which is fine, and he'll keep his job and everything. He probably would get extended at that point, or it goes off the rails because that schedule's brutal. Maybe something happens to Lagway because, again, there have been mounting injuries, and Billy Napier would get fired. It's a very boomer bust situation in Florida. There's one other very boomer bust situation that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about. We keep talking about this team in one way, but we don't talk about what if it doesn't work, and that's Texas Tech. We talked about Texas Tech building this roster, spending freely in the transfer portal. They're as loaded as they've been from a talent standpoint at Texas Tech. So Joey McGuire knows that. Joey McGuire also has one of the more manageable buyouts in college football. If Joey McGuire were to get fired after this season, they would owe him $9.9 million. That's a lot of money but compared to most of these, it's not.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought because I did consider putting him on this list. And, you're talking to a person that called Joey McGuire and had a conversation with him about it for 15 minutes a month ago and wrote a column about how the circumstances of his job has changed and thus have put him in a pressure cooker that he didn't sign up for. But I also think that there is kind of a negative connotation to hot seat in that, like, you are viewed as somebody who hasn't done a good job. And I'm not necessarily sure that's applied to the person who has won more games at Tech than anybody since Mike Leach. And maybe that's a flawed way of thinking about it because the list isn't who's doing a good job and who's doing a bad job. It's who's going to get fired. But
it's also relative to how much does it cost to fire you and what are we putting into the program and what do we expect out of the program?
So from that standpoint, I think he probably could have been or should have been on this list.
Yeah, because they're now putting more into the program than they ever have, and they expect immediate ROI on that. So, plus, look, if he had a different kind of buyout, I wouldn't even be saying this. But if they go 6-6 with that talent in a year they're supposed to compete for the Big 12 title, it is not going to go over well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that you are probably right in that he should be on there just because he's in danger. And I think he knows he's in danger. I also don't know what for the investment and for how much Texas Tech has changed what it is this offseason. What is the expectation there to play for the Big 12 championship? And what gets you fired if you're Joey McGuire is an interesting thought exercise.
I think if you are in the mix for the Big 12 championship in late November, he's fine. Asking to win it or get fired is a little extreme. But I think if they are in the mix to make the Big 12 championship game in the last 2 weeks of the season, preferably the last week of the season, he's fine.
Yeah. So big omission, I guess. But let's get back to the list here, Andy. First, because I don't know if people realize this because it's not specified in the graphic, but I ranked them in order of how hot their seat is. And I put Billy Napier number 1, and I'm actually catching some flack from Florida fans for having him on the list at all, let alone number 1. People are saying as long as DJ Lagway's there, he'll be there. Who are they going to get if they fire him? They'll set the program
I was on a Florida-centric show on Wednesday morning. So Shane Matthews, former Florida quarterback, he does a morning show. He had me on, and one of his listeners asked, how many games does Billy have to win to keep his job? So the Florida fans who are peppering you with, why would you put him on there at all? I don't think that's the majority of the group. I think the majority of the group is still very much, hey, let's see what happens this year.
Yeah. I cannot get out of my mind that there were people or discussions or even the expectation that he would be fired in the middle of the year last year. And I think that it's great what Florida did at the end of the year. I think it's awesome they have a young, exciting quarterback. I also think it's awesome that their lines got better. All the things that you want from your program, I think Florida illustrated.
That's what makes him so interesting is if we're talking about what he's done in the past year, after the Texas A&M game last year, from that point on, other than a few calls that you might question in the Tennessee game, he's pretty much done everything right.
That said, I think regression back to hell is not as far of a path as people think. If they lose a game or two at the beginning of the year, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and say that Lagway will remain healthy.
Yes.
But if they start off 2-2 going into the Texas game, which isn't out of the question.
Yeah.
But you are in the pits of the hottest of hot seats going into a game that you're not supposed to win. I would say that Florida is playing 2 games that they cannot, from a perception standpoint in our minds right now, win. And that's, Texas and maybe Georgia, which maybe.
I'm not sure Georgia anymore. Yeah. I mean, they were in the game with a backup quarterback against Georgia in the fourth quarter last year. So I wouldn't even put Georgia on that list. I think, so here's, if you're listening in podcast form and can't see the schedule, they play Long Island and USF first, right out of the gate. Then first SEC game is at LSU week 3. Then they're at Miami, week off, Texas at home, following week A&M on the road. I think in that LSU, Miami, Texas, A&M stretch, they have to be 2-2.
Yeah. But 2-3 isn't out of the question. And if they're 2-3, he's going to be in the pits of hell. So I don't know if they would fire him in the middle of the year. I guess obviously when you talk about these things, it's always what does it look like? What are the losses? How do they happen? All those things are important. But like the A&M game being there in game 6,
it's such a bad spot. It is such a bad spot for that game too. That because you've gone through this road gauntlet of at LSU and at Miami in consecutive weeks. So you get the week off to prepare for Texas. That Texas game, assuming you've won at least one of LSU or Miami, that Texas game is the biggest home game at Florida Field in a long, long time. And then you've got to turn around and go to College Station.
Yeah, and it's like
it's not been. They lost in College Station in the Dan Mullen era. They actually beat Texas A&M in Texas A&M's first SEC game in 2012.
A&M is an interesting team. Our boy J.D. Piquel put them in the playoff the other day.
He did. And he also had LSU winning the national championship.
He did.
We have a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, I don't know if we should have him on to talk about that because I was what's going on here? But the thought for me with Texas A&M is that no matter what, they're not going to be dog shit. So if you're feeling bad about yourself after a 2-3 start or things go, not as according to plan,
they are not who you want to see. If you're
not who you want to go on the road and play in a moment where you're not feeling good. So Billy Napier would have been 2 on this list, but DJ Lagway having another minor injury elevated him to number 1 because it was just like a reminder to me of like you are dealing with a super talented mega athlete quarterback that could completely let you down unintentionally by not being available. So yeah. And then of course we can go down the list. There's a lot of SEC coaches in the top 4. All of them are, maybe that's because it just means more. Maybe it's just kind of where the contracts are.
And the Brent Venables thing, it has to do with them moving to the SEC, but it also has to do with Oklahoma. They are not going to accept mediocrity. This is not a program that has ever really been down. I guess in mid to late 90s they were down, but behind Ohio State, probably the second most consistent program in the country in terms of success. I just don't think Oklahoma is willing to accept being a run-of-the-mill SEC program, and if that's what they are this year, then I think they'll do something about that.
Yeah. Also, too, like somebody said, and it might have even been you the other day, that like he has a 10-win season to fall back on. Like 10-win seasons at Oklahoma are the benchmark, not the accomplishment. Yeah. So, like, I still think
that's like when I got good grades when I was a kid, and I said, "How come all these other kids are getting money for getting good grades?" And my parents are like, "We should pay you extra for just doing your job. You're supposed to get good grades."
Yeah, that's good parenting. And now look at you. You almost got into a Ivy League school.
Almost. I got in. I just couldn't pay for it.
You got in.
Broke. Just broke.
For an Ivy League school, they would have been like, I think this is misaddressed, like, to the wrong place. But, the thing that I can't shake about 1 and 2 is that some of the circumstances for why, maybe even more so 2 than 1, is like, how do you adequately judge Brent Venables after last year? Because he just got screwed, for a lack of a better, in terms of injury. No?
Okay. Yes, the wide receiver injury luck, he got screwed.
His entire team was injured last year. It wasn't just
the offensive line being bad is on him. The panic offensive coordinator hire after Jeff Lebby left to become Mississippi State's head coach is very much on Venables.
Yeah.
Like if you make a better OC hire, last year goes differently.
Yeah.
It may not be great because of the injuries, but it goes differently.
I mean, I didn't say that he was blameless, but I also feel like if you are dealt that hand with, your good players not being available to you, it's kind of hard it fogs up the crystal when you're trying to figure out how good especially coming off of a 10-win year. Like, it's not like it's been this way. And that was, it was just, last year was exceptionally bad due to some coaching situations that could have been done better, but also because of bad luck. So this year he's going into a season where they have to win 10 games or 9 games against the hardest schedule in the country. It's like if he gets fired at the end of this year, I'm not necessarily sure that the final 2 years of that evaluation were done with his, like, some of that's bad luck. The schedule this year.
Yeah, it's not fair, but the thing is, when you get paid this much money, it's not supposed to be fair.
Yeah.
Like the standards are supposed to be high. Like,
but you
Brent Venables, if he gets fired, is going to make $33 million. It would be the second largest buyout in college football history if it happens.
You could be firing the right guy without the full set of correct circumstances. That's all.
Right.
And like, we talk about forced patience on this show. Like, it's conceivable that Brent Venables' team gets better, their record gets worse or stays the same. Maybe not worse than last year, but stays the same or is one game better. He gets fired, and in another galaxy, like, he's the best coach that ever coached there, and you just got rid of him too soon, right? Like,
I mean, Bud Wilkinson coached there, so I probably not.
I don't know. Come on, man, don't push back on what I'm trying to say. I hate that. It's like you make a point, and then they're like, "Let's latch on to the thing." It's just like, what I'm trying to say. Like, you get, like, if Dabo Swinney would have gotten fired before he won the championships, which was,
but Dabo Swinney was at Clemson, where the standard is different, or was different. He's created a new standard at Clemson. But the standard was different in 2010 when Dabo Swinney was in danger, fired Billy Napier to bring back another name on this list, and then brought in Chad Morris as the OC. Like, that was different because Clemson was not used to being at the top of the ACC or near the top of the ACC. They weren't expecting. And I think part of and this is where it's somewhat, where I agree with you that it's somewhat unfair to Venables. Part of this is because they just moved to the SEC. They cannot be bad 2 years in a row in the SEC and then just do the same thing again. That's why. Like, they would, of all these, they'd be spending the most money. And it's because of optics. Like you said, They cannot be seen as saying, we accept being mediocre in our new conference home. They can't do it.
Yeah. And that's fair. I mean, it's all fair. And when you take the job, you know what you're signing up for. But, like, I don't think that Brent Venables is a bad coach.
I don't either. I just think the standards are absurdly high at Oklahoma, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Okay. Also, too, maybe a secondary discussion on this list is how many of the programs on the 8 here have had adjustments in, like, what is expected. Because like, I think that, like, you look down at this list and, like, Florida's, it's like, if he goes 8-4, he's fine. It's like, Florida 8-4 is fine. Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't see. That's the thing. I think there's plenty of Florida people that are not fine with 8-4.
Yeah.
I think he'd probably be fine at 8-4, especially if the 4 are close losses to really good teams. But I mean,
the context has changed too, because Oklahoma didn't have to play this schedule when they were dominating the Big 12 either. So, like,
correct.
It's hard to kind of map that out.
But Oklahoma's new mandate is not change your expectations. Their mandate is hire someone who can win 10 games against this schedule.
Yeah.
That is going to be their attitude. Now, if they get beaten down for 6 straight years, maybe they change their expectations. But
yeah, I mean, how many years?
They're not ready to do that yet.
How many years do you think it takes as a baseline, like, of results does it take to change a fan's expectation?
Well, I think Florida is an interesting example of that. So Florida last won the national title 17 years ago, which I feel really old saying that. Yeah, 17 years ago, and has not really been in the mix for it since the year after that, 2009. I think you would argue they were a national title contender for most of that season. They've had good seasons. Dan Mullen had some really good seasons there, but I think now that the base, what would make them happy, what would make them deliriously happy, is just making the 12-team playoff. Where if you went to a Florida fan in the midst of the Spurrier era or the Meyer era, if there was a 12-team playoff then, it wouldn't even be just make the playoff. It would be you better get to the semifinals at least.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech's are different. Cincinnati's, I think, are a little bit different. I mean, Cincinnati was kind of flying a little close to the sun.
Cincinnati, the conference change did a lot, because Cincinnati was a place where if it was in the Big East or the American, it was pretty well set up for success. If you look at the history of the coaches there, we can go back, but like Mark D'Antonio, Brian Kelly, Butch Jones were all really successful there. Tuberville wasn't, but then Fickle comes in and lights it up. So it was a place where the place itself was set up pretty well. Scott Satterfield inherited what wound up being a much harder job than Luke Fickle had or than Brian Kelly had.
I think expectation changes are interesting because, like, you know, the one fan base that's probably had the most drastic change in expectations, probably Nebraska, but that's a 30-year gap, and like conference changed during that time period. But you know, there's been so many conference changes in the last 3 years that, like, circumstances like Brent Venables is dealt a hand where it's like, is he supposed to live up to the expectations that were cultivated in Big 12 dominance when playing the hardest schedule in the country? Like, I don't know what's rational about that.
It's not rational.
Yeah.
But this is college football. Rational thought has no place here.
You know, that's my number one problem with my job in life is that, like, my number one thing that I can't deal with in day-to-day life is irrational discussions with people. If you are not thinking clearly or you are expecting something that's not rational, it bothers me. But you also have to suspend rationality when talking about this stuff because it is an irrational sport.
It is. So the top three names on your list, so Billy Napier, Brent Venables, Hugh Freeze. I would argue, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would argue that if you boiled the job description at Florida, Oklahoma, and Auburn into one sentence, it would be your job is to win the national title. It's not fair. It's not rational, but that's the job. And if you're not getting them closer to a national title, you're not doing your job. So,
but of the top three, if you actually you could boil down where these people erred pretty easily. Like, Billy Napier's roster didn't get better enough in the offseason last year.
Didn't get better faster.
Right. That's Billy Napier's black mark. Brent Venables was messed up OC hire, didn't get enough good players on offensive line. And Hugh Freeze's was making a statement about how a high-end quarterback transfer is not worth the money, and then having incompetent, dysfunctional quarterback play that torpedoed his entire season. Like, those, like, all three of these people, although I'll say that Brent Venables, from my standpoint and my thought process, was dealt a crappier hand than the other two.
The conference change made his job significantly harder, just like we talked about with Satterfield.
But, like, I would say that Hugh Freeze's misstep as a coach is the most egregious.
It is, but it's also the easiest to fix. And
that's right.
That's what makes his situation so interesting, because from a buyout standpoint in the SEC, I think he probably has the most manageable one other than Sam Pittman. Yeah. So Hugh Freeze's buyout is about $16 million. Pittman's is about $10.5 million. Depending, actually, with Pittman, it depends on how many games he wins. It could be higher or lower. But Freeze's is manageable enough that if they want to pull the ripcord, they can. But Freeze also is probably the coach who has the easiest path off of this list.
Yes. Manageable schedule, most
good roster. And they're trying something different at quarterback, and they actually have multiple try something different, because Jackson Arnold they took from Oklahoma, obviously. They also got former Stanford starter Ashton Daniels. They also have blue chip recruit freshman Deuce Knight. So they have options there.
Who do you think has the best roster of the three?
It's either Florida or Auburn.
Yeah. Who do you think
is good too? Like John Mateer is excellent. You know, if you look at who Oklahoma could put in the pros in the next couple of years, they've got pros. Like,
well,
they're all pretty. All of these are pretty good rosters. Like there's none of these three would I sit there and go, they have no chance because they don't have the players. They all have the players to get off this hot seat.
Which coach addressed their ailments, their weaknesses the best?
I think they all did it well. I actually think so Venables goes out and get Ben Arbuckle as the OC, goes out and gets John Mateer as the QB.
They fix their offensive line.
Got a bunch of we don't know if it's fixed.
Well, they attempted to fix.
Yeah, attempted to fix the receiver situation. Hugh Freeze got a premium receiver in Eric Singleton Jr. to put with Cam Coleman. and that's going to make the quarterback's job easier. Went and got a couple really good offensive linemen. Xavier Chaplin from Virginia Tech being the headliner of that group. Napier went and got J. Michael Sturdivant at receiver from UCLA. But actually, I will say, like, I think Napier's philosophy of doing mostly high school recruiting, not doing as much through the portal, I think, one, it saved him last year because it gave him a cohesive team that wouldn't quit on him. But two, I think it created a very good roster on both lines of scrimmage going into this year that I think this is as good of a set of offensive and defensive lines we've seen at Florida in a long, long time, probably since the Muschamp years.
Yeah. So that's the most exciting thing about the top three people who are facing the most pressure also went the longest and furthest ways in identifying their issues and fixing them. And I don't know if that's going to play out in actual results, but doesn't it make Oklahoma, Auburn, and Florida maybe the three most interesting teams of the offseason? I think
100%, because
yeah,
at least one of these guys will save his job, and at least one of these guys will get fired. That's of those three. Like it's not going to be all three save their jobs, and it's not going to be all three get fired.
Well, because they all play each other too. Like that's the problem. Someone has to win and lose.
Florida doesn't play Auburn or Oklahoma, but Venables and Freeze play each other, and they all have to play certain teams. They're very tough teams on these schedules.
Which I guess brings us to number 4, which is the perpetual hot seat.
Yeah, Sam Pittman. I feel so bad because it feels like every Arkansas coach kind of goes through the same cycle where they come in, they'll have some success, and then it's just perpetual hot seat because you never really can get back to the 9-10 wins that would make everybody happy. Here, can I spin you a scenario, Ari?
Sure.
Sam Pittman has a decent year this year. I don't know what that means. 7 wins, 8 wins. And retires. And is like, hey, I said I was going to retire here. I love it here. And he retires. I can see that.
Arkansas scares me in the sense that I think that that's a reasonable thought, but I don't know if 8 wins is reasonable against that schedule.
Maybe not. That we don't know. I mean, I think Bobby Petrino and Travis Williams are very good coordinators. So I think they're going to be well coached. It's hard with the personnel. They got a little bit pillaged in the transfer portal.
You know what Arkansas's BetMGM over-under is for their win total this year?
4.5?
It's 5.5.
5.5. Okay.
If they win 8 games, it's an exceptionally good year.
Yeah, which is why if you're Sam Pittman, if you win 8 games, you just ride out, ride off into the sunset and say this job's hard as hell.
They play
retiring.
They play Ole Miss. They play Memphis on the road. They play Tennessee on the road. They play A&M, Auburn, LSU, and Texas. They're going to win 8 games, Andy.
Okay. I was trying to spin a scenario.
Saying, like, where are those 8?
Let's say he goes 6-6 and retires. Ari, how's that sound?
I don't know. That sounds more reasonable.
Okay. I will say if they lose to Arkansas State, they'll probably fire him immediately.
Yeah.
So don't lose to Arkansas State.
Yeah. But also too, I think he's done a pretty good job, and he's just never off of it. And that's just not a way to live either. Because that's the thing too. Like getting back to expectation shifts. Like does Arkansas have to look in the mirror and adjust those?
They always should have, but they never do. So I don't know if it's going to start now.
Yeah, they're just not a good fit for the conference. I don't think.
It's weird though, because like early in the conference, early in their time in the conference, they played in the SEC championship game a couple times. But it's just, it's.
I mean, I don't know if that's an offensive thing to say, but
it's always going to be a very hard job.
If you're an Arkansas fan, you got to look in the mirror, and it's like, well, if 9 wins is the benchmark of me being happy, and then you look around at the schedules that they're facing, and then you ask, like, should they be a better program than Ole Miss? Should they be a better program than Tennessee? Should they be a better program than A&M or Auburn or LSU or Texas or Georgia or Bama, who they don't play this year? Like, and then you get down to the list and you realize that, like, hey, you're probably not going to have better program than 10 of the teams that are in your own league. Then why are your expectations to win 9 games? And if they are, then maybe you're just like not a good fit for where you're at. Or maybe I'm wrong and they believe that they could be a better program than 8 or 9 of those teams.
Well, nobody's leaving the SEC voluntarily, so they're in it.
I know. I'm just saying, like, the thing with expectations is like we do this year over year stuff where it's like, oh, well, they should win 8 or 9 games. It's like, how many programs in the SEC should Arkansas be better than? And if it's less than if it's way less than half, which I think is fair, it's probably way less than half for half the league because there's so many good programs. Then why are your expectations to win 9 games? Like it's just like it doesn't equate to me, and it never has. So that's not meant to be an insult. I just like, again, back to rational thought. It's like how many of the look at the graphic there and tell me how many programs Arkansas should be better than. Not can be better, should be. Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt? Is that where in Kentucky?
I don't know if they should be better than South Carolina. South Carolina has a chance to be very good. They've always got pretty good players.
Take South Carolina off the list. You got 3 teams in your own conference.
Kentucky
that you should be better than Vanderbilt.
You certainly can't say Missouri now.
So why are we expecting them to win 9 games? That's insane.
Oh, Ari.
I know.
This is not how we get YouTube views.
No, I'm not trying to. Again, like maybe this.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think you're right.
I just. Yeah, it's like if I went to a gym with a bunch of buff dudes who work out every day, and I'm like, I'm gonna outbench you guys. Like, it doesn't mean that I don't like who I am, or that like I haven't been working hard at it, or that like
that you can't bench a lot. It's just that they can bench more.
Your competition is every bit as part of the paradox of your expectations as you are. If I took my wife's SUV to a drag racing event and it didn't win, it doesn't mean it's not a nice car. It's just not as nice as the ones that I'm drag racing against. So
exactly.
And like also too, like if you're Arkansas, do you just strive to just get better and expect that one day? I mean, that's why we're all showing up, right? You expect to get better, but like how much of this is like Sam Pittman's fault? And like if you perpetually live on the hot seat because you're not better than Tennessee, then what are we doing?
Exactly. Oh, by the way, as you said that and the Arkansas B-roll played, I noticed producer River in his little window doing the woo pig.
Yeah.
So he's calling the hogs. I think this is a very tough job. I think Sam Pittman has done a fairly good job at it, but
we should do a ranking of which teams have the most out of whack expectations.
That's not a bad idea. It's not, I think it would be very heavy on the SEC, but it's very true.
Yeah, go ask one more. And if they think they should have a better program than Arkansas, you'd probably get a very different answer than what we just.
Well, I think Kentucky fans and Arkansas fans would both say they should have a better program than each other, and Missouri and Arkansas fans, Missouri and Kentucky fans, all of them, and then obviously like an Alabama fan is going to sit there and go, "You guys are all the same thing."
Yeah,
but it's not the same to them, and I think that's the difference. That would be a very fun exercise just to see how everybody feels.
Virginia Tech.
Let's talk Virginia Tech because that
like what
that one feels like Brent Pry is going to have to do some serious work because his buyout's very manageable. His buyout is $6.28 million. It's not gone well. He lost his offensive coordinator to be the offensive line coach at Ohio State. They fired their defensive coordinator. It's a tough schedule. They open with South Carolina this year. They play Vandy again, which beat them last year and could potentially beat them this year. Not an easy draw in the ACC. They got Georgia Tech. They got Louisville. They got Florida State. They got Miami.
Do you want me to go down the road of what should Virginia Tech be, and are we past our Frank Beamer prime or no? Like I don't know.
I think that fan base has accepted that.
Okay,
I think they've accepted that. I will ask this: if we have any Virginia Tech fans in the audience, I would like to know. So feel free to hit us up on social media, Andy_Staples @Ari Wasserman, or if you want to email us. AndyStaplesOn3 @gmail.com, Ari.Wasserman@on3.com. Just where are you? Like, what would you like to see? What do you think is a realistic expectation for your program every year? Because it is tough because in the Beamer years, they were so consistently good. They always outpunched their weight. They always out evaluated everybody, out developed everybody, and it's just not that anymore.
Yeah. And like the results from the Brent Pry era are very similar to the previous Fuentes regime, right? So like we're already
Fuente started hot. Remember, he took him to the ACC championship game in 2016. They went 10-4. They won 9 games the next season, but then it started to fall off.
Yeah, but like the record by records are pretty similar, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this almost identical to the end of the Justin Fuente era.
Yeah,
and it's just, how do you dig out of that? I don't know. It seems like Brent Pry, though, as hard as he tries, I just don't know what you do if you're him. And he can always go back to being a good defensive coordinator somewhere. So it's not like this is the end of the road, but I think it would take a pretty miraculous season for him to save his job.
When Ohio State played Virginia Tech in 2014, I wrote this huge story. Spent a lot of time reporting on it. With the headline was like, "What happened to Virginia Tech?" And like I went in and called a lot of people, high school coaches, and wrote about like Michael Vick and his recruitment, coming from the Tidewater area, and how a lot of their inroads of the Frank Beamer success came from keeping players from that area home. And it's like back then in 2014, funny enough, they ended up beating Ohio State that week, if you remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't know what the parallels are to like now. Like building a program now is so much more complicated than it used to be. It used to just be, why aren't you recruiting players near you better? And if you focus on that and change the perception of your program, and with local kids, you might be able to build it. It's like, what's Virginia Tech's plan now? Like,
yeah, I don't know
in the national conversation.
And the other problem is you have other programs that didn't typically come into your area. Like South Carolina recruits the DMV pretty well now under Shane Beamer. Shockingly, Frank Beamer's kid recruits that area well. You've got Bill Belichick at North Carolina, who's going to be trying to go into that area. Penn State will try to take the best players from that area.
Ohio State in that area. Yeah,
Ohio State's done great in the DMV in the last 10 years. So it's a very tough job. We'll see what happens.
The DMV, I learned, is a different area than the Tidewater area, right? Like
right, yeah. One is the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and the Tidewater is Virginia Beach, that area.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, you've had a lot of programs that were very high up in the world or food chain of college football as we were growing up, who we all remember being really good, who just have seen circumstances change.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Good luck to those on the list. Hope you can coach your way off. Dave Aranda did it last year. I think he's not back on it this year because we think they're going to be pretty good this year.
I mean, I guess it should be on it if they have a really bad year. But
absolutely could. Listen, there's names that aren't on this list that are going to be fired.
Yeah.
It's one, I think they want to, there's going to be more motion this year than last year was pretty quiet carousel year. I think the buyouts are going to keep the numbers down, but I don't think it's going to be as quiet as it was last year.
Yeah.
Speaking of loud and not quiet, we were reminded on Tuesday that Rob Ryan is coaching college football this year. That's right. Brother of Rex, longtime NFL assistant coach. He's back in college football. He's at USC as the linebackers coach. And every time he steps in front of a microphone, it is utterly delightful. So I just want to play you some clips. That's all. I just want you to hear Rob Ryan.
Even a breakdown. Just talk about it. Just watch.
That's right.
Yeah.
Here's how Rob Ryan spent his vacation.
Summer, I mean, obviously, how'd you spend it? Anything fun that you did?
No, man. My wife, that Greek wife of mine, is tough. We went down to San Diego, which doesn't sound tough. Okay, I get it. But, she had a lot of honeydews to do for me, and then helped the mother-in-law move a bunch of boxes, and they threw my back out. But it's great. I mean, it's good to get away to be around family and enjoy it. So I did, and then came back the last week or so and just spent some time here. So we're ready to go.
Him talking about helping his mother-in-law move a bunch of boxes and throwing his back out is more interesting than anything Bill Belichick has said this offseason.
What level of wealth do you have to get to where you refuse to do that?
I think Rob Ryan's probably at it. He just, that Greek wife is tough.
Because the worst thing in the entire world is moving. There's nothing worse.
Yes.
There's like people who willingly decide, hey, I'm going to be a mover for work. Those people have my respect, and they're really good at it. I mean, I can't fathom the amazement that I have every time I hire somebody to move a house. But like, if you were my friend and you asked me to help you move, you're a bad friend. That's my take.
You have to be a very close, it has to be a very close friend for you to ask them to help you move, because you are asking for the most awful thing.
And I get it. Like when you're in your 20s, you don't have the money to do it, whatever. But like now, like we're like pushing 40, like grow up, Peter Pan. Hire
pushing 40. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, if you had a friend who like texted you when you were like tomorrow and said, "Hey, can you help me move?" Wouldn't you just be like, "Grow up"?
Yeah, I'd be like, what happened? What financial mishap befell you? You got to do this. You got to schlep all this stuff. And the other problem is when you're our age, you got a lot more stuff to move. Like when you're just moving your bedroom of a 3-bedroom apartment. So your bedroom and whatever, one piece of living room furniture is yours. It's very different than right now when you have a whole family's worth.
We paid for the service for them to pack you too.
Soft.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great. It was like a extra $1,000 or $1,500, and we didn't have to do anything. It was incredible.
You are the laziest person I know. All right.
No,
here's Rob Ryan on media
I don't
days.
Like that. I resent that lazy thing.
In general, yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Well, I mean, it's been 25 years. I mean, since I've actually been in college. So, I mean, I know we were great when I was there 25 years ago. Look that up. But, I mean, I don't know. I know this is media day. I remember being in a media day 25 years ago when I'm at Oklahoma State. Actually, it was like 27 years ago was my first one. I'm a young coordinator. Nobody knows me, and I'm ending up there, and this one dude from Texas is up there, and he's talking noise and all this, and I'm like, man, Billy Bob Rubrick or something like that. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And then I'm like, man, they have no idea. And they had beat Okie State 73-3 the year before, and I'm like, yeah, they don't know. Well, we beat them 55-10, so I know that. So I got to look great during media day. That doesn't count, so I know I'm not looking good. But either way, I forgot the question, but I'm sure it was a good one.
Is that the guy from Varsity Blues, Billy Bob Rubrick? Is that?
I think so. Yeah.
Is that the offensive lineman from Varsity Blues? Did he go on to play at Texas?
Trying to break down this man's press availability. Like, how do you even write about it?
I think you just hit the high points.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, have
that
you
was spectacular.
People that are so good at talking or so interesting that are hard to quote?
Yes, that's Rob Ryan.
Yeah,
because everything is interesting, but I'm not sure how it fits into what's really going on. All right, one more about the youth, so he is the linebackers coach. USC is somewhat inexperienced at linebacker, so he got a question about the youth at linebacker.
This linebacking group doesn't have a ton of veteran experience, so is there any way to kind of simulate experience or like help that process along so that they're ready?
Well, I mean, I think when you look at that, like people can say, well, they've only got the one guy play. I get it, and it. I mean, nowadays, these kids are smart. They play hard. When they put that ball down, they blow the whistle. My guys will be ready. And, I mean, I know what it's going to look like. Say whatever, No, I'm not going to say nothing. No, I'm going to say something. I think my group's going to be great, and we're going to get after it. If they don't like it, then fire me. Because I know we're going to be good. And we can be young. It's all right. We're young and talented. We'll see.
Please don't fire him.
Yeah.
Even if the young linebackers don't play well, please don't fire Rob Ryan. I want these. I want to be able to play these.
Yeah, he's an entertaining man, and their defense got better last year. We're very excited to see the linebacker play and whether or not USC can take another step in a pretty important integral year.
No more getting 2-minute drilled by teams that don't throw.
Yes, that can't happen again.
Don't do that again.
That's embarrassing. Yeah.
it's a disqualifier. So thanks again to Max Bredesen for joining us, the Michigan fullback who, I think he might be like 70% responsible for that two minute drill.
Yeah.
Michigan didn't throw.
That's a demoralizing. That might have been the single most demoralizing thing I saw all year last year.
It's up there. Yeah. It's up there. All right. One more thing before we go. I told you as soon as I got a chance to see it, I'd let you know. I watched Billy Madison 2. No, wait. Happy Gilmore. I keep calling it Billy Madison 2. My kids are like, what's wrong with you?
They're probably going to try that next.
I mean, obviously, Adam Sandler calls his production company Happy Madison, so those two things certainly are forever linked. But Happy Gilmore 2, I watched it. I was very pleasantly surprised. Like, it didn't ruin my childhood, all that. I guess I was, high school going into college when Happy Gilmore came out. It didn't ruin the original for me. And I was pleasantly surprised. Like, when I heard how many celebrities were in it and how many actual athletes were in it, I was like, oh God, this is gonna be terrible because none of these people can act. Scotty Scheffler was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there's a point where Scotty Scheffler goes, not again.
Yeah.
That I almost fell off the couch.
So my take on the movie is that it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen.
Nope.
And it wasn't the best movie.
Right.
My problem with it is every single thing that was funny outside of the Scotty Scheffler moment was because you remembered what was funny about the first one. Like, it wasn't funny on its own merits. It was just funny because you relived the things that were.
That's what people want in a sequel that is a long time coming. Like, they want you to hit the beats. They want to be reminded of the things they loved about the first one. They don't really want the thing to be moved forward. And you're right. Structurally, it is identical to the first movie.
The jokes were the same. I also thought that Ben Stiller's character was a must and was misused. But I have an overarching point.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of, well, what did you expect when it comes to this stuff? And it's like, I don't know. What did I expect? Something really good? I mean, why do we have to like lower our expectations down to like, oh, this was always going to suck? The fact that it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, the entire back half of the movie was complete nonsense. Like, why? Like, whatever this league was, whatever this hip.
I thought that was funny. I thought the whole making fun of live golf and all that was funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, conceptually speaking, the only thing that I really wanted was, okay, the storyline happens that he needs money. He's out of golf for a while. I don't want to spoil the movie for people who haven't seen it. And like, for him to just play another tournament with Shooter McGavin at the end and there to be new original jokes. Like, I thought that like the movie insisted on itself so much to be funny that it just relied on like 9,000 cameos. And it's like the simplicity of the first movie where there was characters that you cared about, a storyline to follow, and all these different things. You didn't have to overthink it. And it's like, I like cameos, but the entire movie was cameos and throwbacks. There was nothing.
There was one, and this person was in the movie so much that it did not really qualify as a cameo. John Daly was kind of awesome. Like, I want a John Daly, Steve Buscemi movie now.
Yeah, like Adam Sandler's funny. Like, his movies were funny, and I don't know if it's just because we're older. But like, my expectation for the movie was that like, hey, this is a very funny concept. He's going to be in a golf tournament again. Like, the fact that Shooter McGavin's character was so insane, that wasn't what made Shooter McGavin funny the first time.
Yeah, Shooter McGavin was an asshole.
Shooter McGavin was just an asshole. Like, you didn't have to like make him an insane person and throw him into an asylum. Like, it's like, I think like whenever you're making movie sequels, like, people overthink the shit so much that it's like impossible to ever recapture the magic. All you need to do is have him and Shooter going at it with each other and Shooter being funny. Like, and Shooter could still be funny.
Point out, because you said something that made me think of something. Our standards for the direct to streaming movies need to be higher. Like, Netflix is spending as much on these movies as any movie that debuts in theaters. So have the same standard. Like, I feel like, and maybe it's us, maybe we're the ones doing this, that when it's a direct to streaming movie, we're like, oh, it doesn't need to be good. It just needs to.
Yeah, the what did you expect crowd annoys me. What do I expect a good movie?
If you're going to spend as much as you'd spend on a theatrical release,
yeah,
then make it good. Like, why not make an Oscar winner? There's no reason you can't. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, I thought it was
maybe not an Oscar winner here in Happy Gilmore 2.
It wasn't nearly as bad as Dumb and Dumber 2. But
yeah.
it still illustrated the same things that bothered me about Dumb and Dumber 2, which was the type of humor that made the first one good. It wasn't even the same humor anymore. Like, like that's.
I also don't think the world like that taste change. What hit us a certain way in 1994 isn't going to hit us.
And don't make the movie.
But they want to make money.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they made a lot of money. So I guess but if you're a person that says, what did you expect? Then your standards are off. I expect good work. And I think that this wasn't good work. I think it was just a money grab, and they did a good job of making it, but I think it was a good movie. That
said, I also think Will Zalatoris, if he wants to stop playing golf professionally and go into acting, he could do well. He could make it. He was pretty good too. That's one of those where I kind of think his schedule as a pro golfer probably limited what his role could be. But if he'd had unlimited time and they'd had unlimited days with him, they could have made him a bigger part of the movie, and he would have been really good at it.
Yeah. But just like the last scene and the last holes that they were playing, it was just like, what am I watching? Is this a Japanese game show? Like,
you were watching the last scene of Happy Gilmore 1.
I guess
after the big stanchion falls.
But there was not even a compelling villain.
It's just let's make that out of the court. That was the problem. So the guy who played the villain, I guess, was the director of Uncut Gems. So he's like a frequent Adam Sandler collaborator.
Okay.
He was not interesting or funny. He's supposed to have terrible breath. They didn't do a great job.
Shooter McGavin was a great villain, because he was just a crazy golfer.
Yeah.
I don't know. And they also made it sci-fi at times. Like, it was just kind of like, it's just like, come on.
Yeah,
you're trying too hard.
If you cast the villain better, or if you just make Shooter the villain again.
Why was Shooter just not the villain from the beginning?
I don't know. Maybe Sandler wanted a redemption arc for Shooter. I really don't know.
No, yeah. It was like Shooter, we can't blow it, but like Shooter being like a sympathetic figure was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. I did want those pancakes, though. All right. One more thing. We read you the amazing description of Mac football from that YouTube comment yesterday. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Go back to yesterday's show, but it involves the phrase 14 people in a raccoon. And you couldn't make it in Ypsilanti. Here it is from T King 701. Congrats on your 5-star recruits and $100 million facilities, SEC fans. Meanwhile, the Mac is out here playing real football in front of 14 people in a raccoon on a Tuesday night during a blizzard. You ever seen a punter throw a touchdown to a long snapper while the scoreboard's on fire? Didn't think so. So the Mac, not missing a beat, taking its cue from the American Conference, which just recently rebranded, created Soar the Eagle, the first conference mascot. The Mac has unveiled the Macoon. They had AI generate this, but I really hope there's a costume being sewn right now.
Yeah, it should be, from a branding standpoint, like being an insane conference should be the selling point. So
the Macoon needs to show up at a Tuesday night game in November.
Yeah. Lean into it. Lean into the spirit of that comment. Play your crazy games on Tuesday and Wednesday. Just lean into it. That's the selling point. Insane football.
Yeah, that's all we want. We want a Tuesday night in November with a blizzard. And if you have the Macoon there, we really can say 14 people in a raccoon.
That's right.
I'm checking now. Here we go. November 25th. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Western Michigan at Eastern Michigan in Ypsilanti.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the Macoon wouldn't just be perfect just hanging out in the stands.
It would be great if they brought it to life. I'm with you. If they actually leaned into it.
I'll tell you what, guys. I will volunteer. If you're listening in the MAC office, John Steinbrecher, commissioner, I will show up the Tuesday before Thanksgiving and wear the Macoon costume, provided you make one, in Ypsilanti for Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan.
I'm sure your wife will love that.
I will be the jolliest mascot you ever saw.
Yeah, I would love to see you in a mascot. That because, like, honestly, it's funny that this kind of wraps around to something earlier. Like, I think like worst jobs you could possibly be are mover, and like in a close second would be to wear a mascot on a hot day, a mascot uniform on a hot day.
I was reading there's a great story in the Center Daily Times on James Franklin's upbringing, if you haven't read it. But one of his jobs as a young man was he worked on a crew that essentially fixed the sewer pipes. And so he'd have to jump into raw sewage.
Oh, boy.
That's a pretty terrible job.
Yeah, raw sewage. Yeah. Anything that involves being hot and sweaty is terrible to me.
Yeah, that and smelly.
Yeah.
But that's not even like, it's not even the heat. The heat makes it worse, but that's terrible when it's cold too.
Yeah.
The Macoon is a much easier job than that. So I'm happy to volunteer to be the Macoon.
And it'll be freezing.
Ypsilanti.
It'll be freezing there too. So that'll help.
100%. So the costume will keep me warm.
Yeah.
Ari, it's been a pleasure. Your questions answered tomorrow, but also Indiana coach Curt Cignetti. That's right. The Hoosiers are back, baby. They don't think making the playoff was a fluke. I'll tell you why you shouldn't either.